Nesloney, an elementary principal in Texas, and I seek every week to bring you inspirational people who I have either learned from or learned about or met in person and bring them and allow them to share bits and pieces of their stories with you in hopes that it inspires and encourages you to get out there and tell more of your story. I'm so thrilled this week to have my guest, Laurie McIntosh, on. Laurie, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Sounds good. It's crazy to hear Todd Nesloney say that he'll have you on because he's inspired by you, but whatever. I'm Laurie McIntosh. I'm a kindergarten teacher here in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, and I have been teaching for about 12 years. I taught grade 2 for 8 of those years, and I absolutely loved it. And then I went off to have my own babies, and I wanted to go back part-time, and they said, okay, well, we have kindergarten part-time, and I was like, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So I took a kindergarten position not knowing if I was, I don't know, like up for it or if I was that kind of type that you need to be. And I've been there since, and I absolutely adore it. Can't imagine doing anything else at this point.
So did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher?
I think I knew from a very young age, but I think before I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, people told me I was going to be a teacher. So I kind of fought it for a long time. You know, we'd play school. My siblings would tell you that the same way my daughter does now, play school. And I always wanted to be kind of taking the lead and doing those things. And people would just say, oh, she's natural teacher. She's going to be a teacher someday. And so I think I fought it for a while. I decided for a while I wanted to go into like journalism, or I was going to I had my own little TV show as a kid on our local cable station and thought, no, that's the direction I'll take. And then high school came along and I thought, no, I think people are right. I think teaching is more in my blood. To me, I believe it's a calling, and I believed I was called to be a teacher in high school. Things, as they often do, didn't quite go as I planned. I came down to university. I took a degree and didn't quite make it into their ed program. And they called me. I decided to move home. I thought I'll go live with my mom and dad for a bit, and I will do educational assistant type work. And they called me a week before the program started and said, hey, you were on the waiting list. You were like 85th on the waiting list, and we have a spot. And I said, no, I think I'm just going to stay here. I'm good. And I ended up staying as an educational assistant for 5 years, and I loved it. Now, that whole time I was, again, being told, you need your own classroom, we love you, and thank goodness for a very supportive yet firm principal who said to me, hey, I don't want to renew your contract because I think you need to go back to school, and if I just keep renewing this contract, you're just going to stay here forever. I think you should go. And with that little push and with some kind of life events, I ended up back in university and hired with a few weeks left in my practicum. And I don't know, I just haven't looked back.
I love that. What do you feel like is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself through teaching?
I mean, I think I learned, it depends on the time. Like over the past 12 years, I feel like I've learned so much. I think that I've learned a lot about being vulnerable as a teacher. And I feel like it wasn't that long ago that I did my training where I just feel like I was kind of told, like, take the lead, be the boss, you're the, transfer that knowledge and that kind of stuff. So I think I got into teaching thinking that's what I would do. That's what I was good at. And I like to be the boss of things. So I'm going to do this. And so I think I've learned a lot about, like, that's not what education is. And that's really not that's not what my why is. It's not the role I want to take in children's lives. So I think I've learned a lot about vulnerability, about saying, I don't know, about exploring things together. I was just saying, I've watched some of your clips this week about the tell your story and just reminding myself, like, I have a story to tell, and that's great. But I think, like, even I'm learning that still.
I think we all are.
Right. And I think we're great deflectors. We don't take compliments well. We don't want to take credit for things. We want to like, oh gosh, no, it's not all about me. And it isn't. Like, that's not why we're here. So I feel like I've learned a lot too, that I really learned that the more the merrier in my life. I would much rather take on a collaboration of some sort than work on a project alone. I love to share. I do believe sharing is caring. I think that that's kind of changed and evolved as I've been a teacher. Everything was mine. So I've learned a lot about sharing, and that I get more pleasure out of sharing than I ever thought I would.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like I started this career in a very different person than I am now, and I'm kind of proud about how far I've come.
That's awesome. What do you love most about what you do?
I love making dreams come true. I try and learn as much as I can about our students. I went through a PD a few years ago with Tom Hyrick out of Canada here, and I just fell in love with so many things he was saying. And one of the things he taught me was to learn the dreams and needs and abilities of our children. And I mean, like, it's something I posted on Twitter, and every time I post it on Twitter, I think, oh, people are probably like, Laurie, enough of this DNA stuff. But it's something I'm so passionate about, because I feel like when I know kids' dreams, I can take their experience to a different level. We're very blessed here in Canada that kindergarten is actually an optional program here. So a parent could send their child to grade 1 without going to kindergarten. No, it doesn't happen very often, but because of that, our standards are different. Your grade 1 looks a lot more like our grade 2 would, right? Like every year is different. So I learned those dreams, and I just like to try and make them come true. Like if they want to connect with their favorite artist, like I want to try and make that happen for them. I want to bring people into their lives they never thought they would meet. I want to, one little guy this year, just all he wants to be a police officer, but his dream right now is just to sit in a police car. So like, of course I'm going to reach out to our school resource officer, who's amazing, and he's going to bring in a police car at the beginning of May, and we're going to like make that come true. So I think that's just my favorite part. Is I love the connection, I love the collaboration, but I love showing them that like really anything is possible. And it doesn't matter that you're 4 or 5 or 6 years old. Anything is possible with hard work and effort and connection. You can make those things happen.
I love that. Now, you've got some unique recognitions on your resume as well, don't you?
Besides Todd Nesloney's wannabe best friend?
Well, I mean, that's an important resume list as well.
Okay, or get your T-shirt stalker, that one. The one where Todd Nesloney, I just wonder. Okay, not that thing? Okay.
No, not that one. Not the other one.
Okay. I've got a few. Yeah. I've had a few pretty awesome experiences in my life, and a few things that I'm kind of, I guess, known for. Do you want to be more specific with me?
Yeah. So tell our viewers probably what one of the coolest of them was.
Well, being on Ellen was my very, very favorite.
And I gotta say, every time I hear you say that, I just hate you a little bit more, because I'm like, oh, Laurie has got to meet one of the coolest people in the world in my mind. And
I think like it's a story, like it was 4 years ago. I can't believe it was 4 years ago. And I mean, I will, to anybody who's like, oh, you're probably sick of telling the story. I'm like, no, I met Ellen. Like, I will tell the story over and over. But I feel, it was very lucky. It was a time in my life where I was kind of like even not sure of the whole teaching thing anymore, to relate it like to my profession. I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take. I knew I was really into projects having to do with kindness and projects having to do with like more of that character education, but it's hard. I was feeling like maybe not as supported. And it wasn't by anyone in particular. It was just more that feeling of like, well, that's not what we do as teachers. Like, get back to the outcomes, get back to the facts kind of thing. So, I was totally shocked. I got to go, and I rapped in a commercial break, and I thought, okay, that was my moment. I was so excited. She was like kind of laughing, and then I get called down to play a game.
Okay,
Like,
so hold on. So
yeah.
you just went to just go to like a taping of the show.
Oh yeah, totally
It's like a
random.
person in the audience, and there's stuff to do during commercial break kind of moments, right? And so
Yep.
you went up there and rapped during a commercial break.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know this part. This is amazing to me. Okay, so you rap, and Ellen likes it so much that she invites you to come play a game.
Todd, that is the magic of the story. Like, I was such a huge Ellen fan. There was no way. Like, there's so many questions I wanted to ask since that I really don't know the answers. I remember when I was initially called up, and then at the end, there's a moment that I just love when the first time we were there, and she grabs my hand and says, "I just love your energy. Like, you were so awesome. I'd love for you to come back sometime." And I thought, oh, I'm sure she says that to everyone. She's so lovely. But then part of you goes like, but she's like super authentic and super honest. I'm like, okay. And I remember her wanting me to talk to a producer after the show. And I was like, you knew who I was. I've written to this show like 50 times. You knew who I was. And she was like, no, like we honestly didn't. That was totally random. The timing of like the rap timed with you, like that was totally random. So yeah, and then we got called back a week later, and we were, incredibly blessed. We won a car, and we won the 12 days of giveaways, which we came home and went on a ginormous giving spree with. And it's something that is still surreal to me. I can't believe it happened.
Now, is this one of those things that like you like blacked out and you only remember it because of video clips?
Basically.
Or do you actually remember all of it?
No, I don't remember all of it. I remember going out for supper after the first. I remember seeing my name on the cue card and pointing, and that I can see that in the episode, and me going like, "Oh, there's my name." I remember her eyes. I remember her eyes, and I remember my mom and my sister and my husband in the audience. I remember looking up at them, and all three of them were crying and excited and jumping, and so I remember that part. Now the second appearance, barely remember any of it. And to tell you the honest truth, I've never watched that full clip. I have a really hard time watching that one of myself. So I've never even like relived the whole experience. So,
it's funny because a lot of people don't realize that when you get in one of those situations, it's so surreal and out of body because before you're there, that person seems so untouchable. I remember when I got to meet President Barack Obama, and it was unexpected, and we were there for a White House recognition, but they had said he's not going to be there. He never really goes to anything. And then all of a sudden they're delaying. And I remember all of that. And then it's like the press all rushed in. We're like, the president's here. Let's go sit down. And we're like, what? And then we got to go shake his hand. And I don't remember any of it. Thank God it was recorded and they sent us DVD, because my wife was like, he said something. What did he say to you when you went up there? And I said, I don't know. I'm shaking the hand of this person on TV. And then we watched the video clip and I was like, oh, that's what he said. Oh, I stood by him. Look, I'm in a photo. So I'm sure it was the same thing with Ellen. Like in the moment, like, oh my God, I'm meeting Ellen.
And my husband and I will sit down and still watch Ellen. And we're always very quiet. And we're always like mouth open, like that happened to us. Like if someone wins a car, we're like, our car is in the garage. Like it's a very surreal thing. We have huge amounts of gratitude. So obviously like it's very real in that way where we go like, okay, that happened. But there's just something about it that I still feel like I'm just like telling a story. I saw this show on TV last week and this crazy teacher was on Ellen and I don't feel like it's mine. So yeah, it's a very, very surreal.
Now, what I love most about the whole story and experience for you, Laurie, is that this wasn't just a thing for you to go and say, ha, I was on Ellen. She gave me a card. This was so cool. You have really taken the whole kindness, give back idea, initiative, whatever, and really lived it out. I mean, I follow you on several social media platforms, and to see you drive through McDonald's and give a gift to the person at McDonald's, or surprise different people, or you as a family too go out and find ways to be kind and give back. Why is that so important for you to have that be a part of everything that you are?
I didn't know this was a therapy Facebook Live session. But
Always, always.
I feel a little tear coming in. Okay. It's hard for me to put into words. Here's what I do know. I know that the minute that we walked out of that studio, kindness was always something I did, but I felt like I wasn't allowed to share it, because if you share, you're bragging. If you share, you're talking yourself up and putting other people down, and your accomplishments when you are kind mean that I'm a failure because I'm not. And so all of those things were always with me. The thing that Ellen did is it gave me the courage to unapologetically say, I know what my intentions are in my heart. Yeah. And our family knows what our intentions are in our heart. Mm-hmm. The intention is to spread this. The intention is to connect with people who don't feel seen. The intention behind it is to make a difference, and all of those things, that's the intention behind it. So when I became more secure and I know what my intention is, I know what it is, mm-hmm. then it just gave me the courage to go, this is just me. And I'm not saying that I drove through a McDonald's and gave some flowers. Yeah. So what are you going to do? It's not about that. And I mean, your whole series, this whole tell your story message is so important for people like me to hear, because I suffer from anxiety. Every time I go to hit enter post, my first thought is yeah, right? I read your post last week. Your first thought is, who's going to judge you? Who's going to take offense? Who's going to think this is about them? Who's going to think whatever they think? And that can just grow and grow and grow. Right. So I just felt finally I was done with that. And not to say that I still don't do it, but I just knew how important it was. There was a huge element of guilt for a while. You just think Ellen, me? There are people doing such amazing things. I'm barely touching this place. There was an element of guilt. So for a while, the intention was also to say it was to show gratitude to her. Honestly, was to say I would tag her in things, or I would just think I'm so grateful for what you did. I need to show you that. Not that I'm worthy, but you know what I mean.
But I think it's so important. I think it's so important, though, what you're saying is, and people need to hear that it's very easy to feel unworthy or to feel like somebody's going to think something. But I think what you're an example of is that every time I see and I mean, you and I've interacted in person, we've communicated online, we've never had an at-length conversation. So I couldn't sit down and go, I know everything. And that is totally Laurie. But when I watch you online and see that stuff, part of me is, wow, it seems so genuine. But the other part of me is, I want to get out there and do something like that. And I think that's where it's so important for people to be out there talking about their strengths and what they love to do, and not in a way that makes it where I'm better than you. But when you put that out there every time, I'm like, oh, reminder, I need to get out there and go show gratitude to somebody. I need to go do this or that. And it is a direct reflection of me seeing somebody like you do it. I mean, so you've inspired me as well, because every time I see you post something, because we go to Starbucks a lot in my family, every time I see you post something, we will go in and be like, we'd like to pay for the car behind us, or something as simple as that. And just hoping that there's not 20 people in the car behind us. But
hey, one day's gonna happen.
But I think that's why it's important, because even with all the kindness you're doing and knowing how genuine it is from your heart, you're still going to get people who say stuff, and you're still going to get people who think you're bragging. But at the same time, you're inspiring people to go out and remember to do that kind of stuff, because we can get caught up so easily in our own worlds. Well,
and tell your story. Tamara Letter with Passion for Kindness. It's the same kind of idea, right? You're talking about all these people who, telling your story shouldn't have such shame behind it. Right. We shouldn't be such deflectors. We shouldn't be saying, and I think it was, I know she won't take credit for it, but Renee Hawkins was the one who told me, my accomplishments are not your failures, and vice versa. I'm not saying, hey, I'm kinder than you. The whole point is that you go, hey, that sparks something in me that I want to be kind. And maybe it's not giving something away even, but maybe it goes, hey, I just want to show that gratitude, like you just put it. I really believe that. So if someone is amazing at whatever, coding, like I'm following coding and I'm like, I want to code. Like I want to know more and I want to do more and I'm trying to learn more. And like, I don't ever think like, wow, that guy's really bragging about coding.
Yeah.
Like, no part of that. So why do we do that with things like kindness? Why do we do things like that with telling our stories? Why? It's a skill set. It's something I've practiced and it's something I love and it's something I have passion for. I don't want to hide it. Now, having said that, often I do. I don't post every kind act I do. It's not about that, but it's having the courage to say, this is who I am.
So is there a particular thing that comes to mind that was really impactful for you when you did go out of your own zone and give back to someone?
Well, I think it's always impactful when somebody denies. Like, I mean, we do our kindness capes walks in kindergarten. And I remember one of them, a little guy went up to a taxi driver and said, here's a candy cane. And the man kind of like flicked it out of his hand. So I think I've learned more from like, not taking it personally when somebody isn't open to that in their hearts. Like I think that again, because we know everyone's got a story, I feel like I don't know people's stories. I don't know, why people come across the way they do, but I try to assume the best in people. Like I think I don't know. I've learned a lot through following others, of course. Like that always inspires me too. And taking the time to kind of really reflect on, again, the intention behind things and the timing of things. Like sometimes I'll sit with something like the drive-through thing you mentioned. We talked about doing that at Christmas. And it was my kids that kind of like started the idea and then it kind of snowballed. And I put it off for 3 months because I was like, but then what if that makes that person uncomfortable? And what if there's 2 drive-through windows? Then what? Then what if we don't have enough stuff? And then only Sadie's seat is next to the drive-through. Like, you can talk yourself out of these things all the time. So I think, I'm learning all the time just to like, I'm enough. Yeah. And I'm doing my best every day. And so are so is everyone around me. We're doing the best with what we've got.
I think we can easily get caught up in our own stuff to forget that everybody, like you said, has a story. Everybody is struggling with different things, even if it's just in that moment, struggling with that moment. Now, with your own kids and doing these little activities and these give backs, have you noticed a change in your own children?
I've noticed a huge change. Like it's different to do it with students, but within our own family, I mean, we committed to this as a family a long time ago. We've kind of committed to making this a priority in our life and as gratitude especially, but the kind acts and things. And I think the thing that touches me the most is when you brought up earlier, like, did you always know you wanted to be a teacher? I always felt like my brain worked a little differently. I always felt like I wanted to give maybe more than people wanted me to. I don't know if that even makes sense, but I see that coming out in my daughter now. So with her, for instance, there's a food drive at school and Molly's saying, but mommy, like, I know I brought in 8 cans, but I just want to go get 8 cans of soup and I'll buy it with my own money. And I'm like, but we got piano lessons and we don't have time for the grocery store right now, Molly. And, you do all that and you just realize like, she's kind of like, I'm kind of living through her a little bit now as a little girl. And I realized when I was little, all I wanted was somebody to say like, yeah, let's go buy those cans of soup. Or, every time I went to an animal shelter, any type of food bank, anything, I just wanted to do more and more, but it was always like, oh, well, there's lots of people to help, or those kind of the message you were getting. So through my own children, do I see gratitude? Yeah, I do. And I mean, I'm so glad that we've committed to this. Like, it makes me realize that we're only going to get better at kindness and gratitude with practice. They're not innate qualities in us. It's not like Laurie McIntosh's kids were born more kind because she was on Ellen.
Ellen just snapped her fingers and the kids
Yeah,
were like,
right?
Ellen now.
Or like, exactly. And just because that's a part of their story and their life, it doesn't mean like, oh, that we're just super kind now. That's just the way it happens. You join the Ellen family and that's it. You know, so I feel like I'm learning a lot through them. They push me out of my comfort zone when it comes to kindness. Often I like to be the initiator, right? I like to say, okay, so today we're going to do an act of kindness, and I'll say, who do you pick or whatever. But when they do well, mommy, we're at Starbucks, just pay. And I'm like, oh, but, you know, so they push me to that too. Sometimes when I'm not even in that mindset. So I think that's what I love most is that they're not afraid of this. This isn't something that makes them uncomfortable. And I believe as adults, like it can be uncomfortable for us. It can be a very uncomfortable thing to offer kindness to a stranger. You're worried about offending. You're worried about the reaction. You're worried about how it'll make them feel. You're worried about how it'll be perceived. So I really believe that with my own kids, I hope I give them enough experiences as they're young that it doesn't feel so foreign to them. It feels like a habit. It just feels like that's what you do.
I love that. So before I get to my last question, I have to ask another question.
Okay.
Is Ellen everything she seems to be on TV?
This is my favorite Ellen question to answer because I think people like. I was watching her yesterday with Chelsea Handler, and I was watching an episode, and she was talking about what an authentic person she is, and Chelsea Handler was saying like how sometimes I lie to people and she's like, really, I'm just not a liar. Like I don't understand that concept. I just think like, why would I do that? She is like the most authentic person I've ever met. There's something that radiates from her. There's something that like you believe what she's saying. You believe what she's offering. Her eyes are like so kind. And there's a picture in particular. It's just like a screenshot that somebody took on Instagram, I think, of her looking at my reaction. And I cry every time I look at that picture because you can tell this isn't about her. Right. This isn't about her making herself feel good by giving this teacher a car. This is like, she is so genuinely happy. She is so thrilled that you're getting to experience this moment. So she's everything and more. I find it hard to even put into words my love for her.
Well, I'm so jealous. But so my last question for you is, and I always love ending on this question, and that is, if there was one thing you wish more people knew or understood, what would that one thing be?
I think that I've heard you touch on this with this question, but I think everyone has a story. Can we not assume the best? Like we are doing the best with what we have. And that is such a hard thing for me. I'm guilty of it too. We have so much going on in our lives, but we can't take a look at we can't look at social media and believe that someone's life is perfect. And listen, I'm no better. I document on social media for my children and for my mom. There's no way I want to tell them the junky stuff that's happening in my life there. But don't perceive that as my life is perfect either, right? And just like your life isn't. The way you share your story and your, concerns and the story about your mom, like every time it just like gets to me, because if people don't know that about Todd, like that it changes your world, it changes your view of people. So I just have a lot of appreciation for people that are honest enough to do it, and I have a lot of gratitude for you and for those in my life who just say, you know what, like my favorite, Jody Carrington says, like bottom hands only, people, the rest don't score. It's all about the people who believe in you, who push you. Those are the people that we need to care about, and everyone else just needs to realize that we all have a story and we're all just doing the best with what we've got.
So that was a perfect mic drop moment. So, but Laurie, I just want to tell you, thank you for coming on the show. But more importantly, I have had interactions with you in person, and you are, and through that and online, are just one of the kindest people, and it is genuine, which is what I truly respect and admire, which is why I wanted you to be a guest, because you don't meet too many people who you know that they are showing you their whole heart through what they do and what they say. And you just blow me away with the work that you do, and you inspire me all the time, even though I don't always tell you. So thank you for being a guest. I adore you.
Todd, and right back at you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, for pushing me out of my comfort zone. I wasn't nervous or anything today, but
Right.
you make this so easy. I feel like it's a couple friends having coffee, and you make me proud of the work I do, and you make me want to continue it, even though some days it feels really hard. So that was an amazing compliment, and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, and thank you everybody for listening or watching to another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out any of the previously recorded episodes on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Make sure you follow Laurie on social media and get to know her even more. And I hope that this conversation has been another opportunity for you to hear somebody's story and for it to inspire you to get out there and tell your story. Because like we always say, every story matters. Have a great night, everyone.